My daughter-in-law gave me an expensive wine for my birthday. The next day, she asked, "So, did you like the wine?" I replied, "I gave it to your mother." She froze. The silence weighed heavy in the room. At the time, I didn't understand. Only later. But let's start from the beginning. My name is Margaret Sullivan, a retired teacher. It was Saturday, March 16th, 2024, 2 days after my birthday. The cold March wind blew through the streets of Westfield when I saw, from my kitchen window, Jennifer's impeccable figure approaching with a gift bag. I forced a smile. I already knew she only shows up with gifts when she wants something. "Happy belated birthday, Margaret," she said, walking in without knocking, as always. Blonde, 28 years old, made up as if for a party, she set the bag down on my marble countertop. "Sorry for the delay. I was traveling for work." I wiped my hands on the dish towel. "You shouldn't have, dear." But she was already tearing the wrapping paper, a bottle of French red wine, Chateau Neuf du Pape 2019, with the price tag still stuck, $89. "It's a special wine I found at a boutique winery in Napa." "Ah," she smiled, pulling out her phone for a selfie with me. Click. Seconds later, it was on Instagram. Special treat for the dearest mother-in-law. Chef, family, love, wine tasting. I looked at the bottle. I recognized the brand. Whole Foods in town sold that exact label. "Thank you so much. That's very thoughtful," I said, swallowing my discomfort. I avoided saying expensive so as not to sound greedy. Then she lowered her voice, staging intimacy. "I need to tell you something about David. My son, her husband. He's been distant, sleeping in the office, avoiding conversations with me. Maybe you could talk to him. You've always had that special connection." There it was. The gift was just a pretext. She wanted me to fix their marriage. I pressed my lips together. "Of course, dear, I'll talk to him." Jennifer blew a kiss in the air, tucked her phone away, and winked. "Oh, and tell me later what you think of the wine. I'm curious for the expert's opinion." She left, clicking her heels, leaving behind the same bitter feeling as always. I placed the bottle in the cupboard, but I couldn't shake off the unease. The fake smile, the obvious lie about Napa, the manipulation to use me as a marriage counselor. I picked up my phone. There was her selfie, dozens of likes, comments like, "What a wonderful daughter-in-law, lucky mother-in-law." Everyone applauding her perfect performance. In that instant, an idea began to sprout inside me. An idea as simple as it was dangerous. An idea that frightened me, but that I refused to chase away. At that moment, I still didn't know, but that clearance sale bottle would be the key to dismantling all the lies hidden within my own family. The following Monday, I met my neighbor Dorothy Chen, 61, a retired banker, watering her plants on the porch. Dorothy had always been direct, and I admired that about her. "I saw Jennifer here over the weekend," she said, adjusting her glasses. "Did she bring you something special?" "A birthday wine," I replied, trying to sound casual. "Chateau Neuf du Pape. She said she found it at a boutique winery in Napa Valley." Dorothy frowned and stopped watering. "Strange. I was at Whole Foods last Friday and saw that exact same wine on a huge sale. I remember because I thought of buying it for Roger's birthday." She pointed toward her house. "It was $39, reduced from $89, total clearance." My stomach tightened. "Are you absolutely sure?" "Absolutely. I even took a photo. Look." She pulled out her phone. Friday, March 15th, 2:30 p.m. The photo showed stacks of the same label with glaring stickers, clearance $39 only. Anger and opportunity hit me at once. It wasn't about money. I had my savings. It was about the calculated lie. Jennifer had staged a whole romantic Napa scene while picking up a cheap supermarket bottle. "Dorothy, do you know when Jennifer's mother, Janet Patterson, has her birthday?" "Of course. She always throws those noisy parties. It's March 28th. Why? I did the math. 11 days. Just curious. But inside me, the idea began to take clear shape, poetic and cruel in just the right measure. That night, I called David. His voice, when he answered, sounded exhausted, defeated. "Hi, Mom, how are you?" "David, dear, how are you feeling? Jennifer mentioned you've been distant, sleeping in the office." A long silence. "She really said that?" "She did. She's worried." He laughed bitterly. "Worried? Of course. Mom, do you really want to know how I am?" "I always want to know. I'm discovering things about my marriage that make me question everything I thought I knew about the person I married." My heart sank. There was more behind that performance. In that instant, I realized my revenge would not be merely symbolic, it would be revealing. I closed my eyes and saw the marked date on the calendar, March the 28th. Janet's birthday would be the perfect stage for the first fall of the mask. That night, I stared at the bottle on the kitchen table and dialed an old acquaintance, Linda Rodriguez, my former schoolmate, now owner of a sophisticated gift shop in Princeton. If anyone knew how to turn a banal object into luxury, it was her. "Linda, I need to wrap a very, very special gift," I explained over the phone. "It's for my daughter-in-law's mother. It has to look absolutely dazzling." "Of course. Margaret, what kind of gift?" "A bottle of very expensive French wine," I replied, biting my lip to suppress an inner laugh. "Châteauneuf du Pape 2019. It's a private transfer of family affection." Linda chuckled on the other end. "Ah, finally learning to play the family politics game. Come by early tomorrow." On Wednesday, I drove down to Princeton with the bottle on the passenger seat, as if it were a bomb about to explode. Linda's shop was a little paradise. Imported handmade papers, French silk ribbons, polished wooden boxes that cost more than a month's teacher salary. Linda, always energetic, examined the bottle without noticing the half-peeled Whole Foods sticker. "Wonderful choice. I'll use cream handmade paper, genuine golden ribbon, and this wooden box that looks straight out of European royalty." I watched, mesmerized, as she worked her magic. 20 minutes later, that clearance supermarket bottle had been transformed into a $300 masterpiece. "And the accompanying card?" Linda asked, preparing the artisan cardstock. I had rehearsed every word. "Write this. For Janet, with special affection from the Sullivan family. May this exceptional wine bring moments of deep reflection and revealing discoveries. With all my love, Margaret." Linda raised an intrigued eyebrow. "Interesting words," I smiled. "Exactly what I intend to communicate." On the way back, I deliberately stopped at the premium Starbucks where Janet always posted her photos. I sat discreetly, observed her habits for 15 minutes, how she obsessively photographed every drink, how she flirted with young baristas, how she complained on the phone about her own daughter. Very interesting, extremely revealing. I ordered an overpriced latte and savored it slowly. For the first time in years of dealing with Jennifer's manipulations, I felt something new. Absolute power. The game of perfect revenge had begun, and I was the one dictating the rules. Saturday, March 28th, 2024. I dressed like an executive ready for a negotiation. Impeccable navy blouse, pressed black slacks, low genuine leather shoes. The perfect image of a refined mother-in-law bringing an elegant birthday gesture. Janet Patterson's house was in Short Hills, a neighborhood that screamed new money at every corner. A garden trimmed by landscapers, a shiny BMW in the driveway like a trophy. I rang the bell precisely at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Janet opened the door in a lilac set that cost more than my teacher's salary. At 58, she flaunted a recent facelift, excessive Botox, and teeth bleached far too much. "Margaret, what a wonderful surprise." Happy birthday, dear. I handed her the luxurious box with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I hope you don't mind the surprise visit. I was in the area and wanted to bring it in person. She received it as if it were a relic. Oh my God, you shouldn't have. But what a thoughtful gesture. Her perfect nails tore at the handmade paper like an eager child. When she saw the bottle, her mouth opened in genuine shock. Châteauneuf-du-Pape. This must have cost a fortune. Just a small token of appreciation. I tilted my head. A friend mentioned you have refined taste for special wines. Her eyes sparkled. She invited me into her magazine-perfect living room. White sofas, $400 fresh flowers, matching cushions. She placed the bottle on the bar cart as if it were an Oscar. Jennifer will be so surprised when she finds out. Janet was already taking photos from every angle to post on Facebook. She always says you're thoughtful, but this is generosity on another level. I savored the moment like aged wine. Funny you should mention Jennifer. She gave me the exact same label for my birthday, 2 weeks ago. Janet's hand froze in midair. What do you mean? The exact same wine. Same brand, same year, same region. Curious, isn't it? She told me she found it at an exclusive boutique winery in Napa Valley. A very romantic story. Janet's smile faltered. Boutique winery. In Napa? Exactly what she told me. Hard to find. I rose gracefully. Well, I'll let you enjoy your day. I'm sure you'll love this wine. I left her standing there, holding the bottle, her gaze flickering between pride and suspicion. The seed of doubt had been planted. The first phase of my revenge had just been perfectly fulfilled. The following Tuesday, I was reorganizing my small library when the phone rang shrilly. It was David, and the tension in his voice made me freeze. Mom, I need to come over now. Something serious happened. 20 minutes later, he walked into the kitchen like a broken man. At 32, my son had always been composed, but that day his hair was disheveled and his clothes rumpled. Mom, Janet is in the hospital. I felt the blood drain from my body. What? What happened? Last night, after drinking wine, she got violently ill. Severe nausea, abdominal pain, fainting. She was unstable all night. The doctor said it might have been severe food poisoning or a reaction to some substance. I clutched my chest. My God, is she all right now? Stable, but under observation. They're running tests. He looked me straight in the eye. Mom, what wine exactly did you give her? My hands trembled. It was the same wine Jennifer gave me for my birthday. Châteauneuf-du-Pape. The same? What do you mean? The same label. I thought if Jennifer chose it for me, her mother would like it too. David stayed silent for too long. Then he spoke, his voice breaking. Mom, there's something. Jennifer is panicking, not just because of her mother, but because... Because what? Janet asked about that Napa winery before she got sick, and Jennifer couldn't sustain the lie. He ran his hands through his hair. She found the Whole Foods receipt in Jennifer's purse, $39 on clearance, not $89 boutique. I swallowed hard, torn between guilt and bitter satisfaction. And what else did she say? Janet kept repeating, the wine came back home. Discover the truth about everything. The doctors suspect the wine itself may have caused the poisoning. They're doing toxicology analysis. The world spun around me. My symbolic revenge, which had seemed harmless, might have turned into a dangerous weapon. I had moved a piece that could topple the entire family structure. On Thursday, I was making tea when I heard furious footsteps storming up the porch. The door burst open without warning. Jennifer came in like a hurricane, her face twisted with rage. Margaret, we need to talk right now. I kept my composure. Jennifer, how is your mother? Don't you come at me with that fake concern? She threw her purse on the counter. You know exactly what you did. I don't understand what you're talking about. You don't? She let out a desperate laugh. You gave my mother the exact same wine you gave me, to humiliate me, to expose my lie. I calmly wiped my hands on the dish towel. I gave it because I thought she'd enjoy it. If it's the same wine, that was a coincidence. Coincidence? She stepped closer. You knew I made up Napa. You planned all of this. Jennifer, lower your voice. I will not lower it. She shook with fury. My mother almost died because of your little game. She's in the hospital because that wine was spoiled or contaminated. A real pang of fear shot through me. The wine was spoiled? The doctors don't know yet. Could have been poor storage, transportation, or maybe you did something. That's a serious accusation. It's real. Jennifer paced like a caged animal. You found out I bought it at Whole Foods for $39, not Napa, and you decided to expose me. I sat at the table, forcing calm. Why did you lie about Napa, Jennifer? Because I wanted it to seem special. She was crying with rage. Because you always judge me. Because I was never good enough for your perfect son. And lying fixes that. She glared at me with hatred. You really want the truth? I do. I bought that wine on clearance because I'm broke, because David doesn't give me enough money, because this marriage is a financial prison. Tears streamed down her face. And you old manipulator, used that against me. I took a deep breath. Jennifer, sit down. Let's talk like civilized people. Civilized people don't poison their mother-in-law. The words hung in the air like lit dynamite. I stood up slowly, looking into Jennifer's red, desperate eyes. The silence between us was sharp as glass. Jennifer, do you really believe I poisoned your mother? I don't know what to believe anymore. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. All I know is my mother drank the wine you gave her, and she almost died. And where did you buy that wine, Jennifer? At Whole Foods. I already told you. When? On Friday, March 15th. I grabbed my phone and showed her the photo Dorothy had taken at the same store. Look at the date and time, same day, same clearance. Jennifer stared at the screen, confused. So what? If we both bought from the same batch, how is it possible that only your mother's bottle caused poisoning? The color drained from her face. What are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating anything. I'm simply stating that if there was contamination, it happened after you bought it. I took a step forward. What did you do with the wine between the 15th and the day you gave it to me? I didn't do anything. And where did you keep the bottle during that week? In the apartment. Where exactly? In the pantry, I think, or in the bedroom closet. Her voice faltered, increasingly confused. You don't remember where you stored an $89 wine, supposedly bought in Napa. She realized she was being cornered. Margaret, what are you trying to say? I crossed my arms. Answer just one more thing. Where were you really between the 13th and the 15th? Because in Chicago, on a work trip, you were not. Jennifer turned ashen. How do you know? Because the truth always comes out, Jennifer, always. She collapsed into a chair, trembling. I was with someone. With whom? With a man I met online. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I spent 3 days in a hotel in Princeton. A mix of shock and bitter satisfaction went through me. You cheated on David. It wasn't cheating. I just needed to feel alive again. She was crying uncontrollably. David doesn't touch me, doesn't talk to me. He just works all day. And the wine? I bought it on the last day before coming back, to cover my absence, to make it look like I'd gone out especially to buy something for you. I stood again, firm. Did you do anything to that wine? No, I swear to God I didn't. But something in her eyes betrayed that there was more behind that story. I watched Jennifer crying on the floor of my kitchen. Part of me felt power, Another, pity. After a few minutes, she lifted her head, eyes swollen. Margaret, I need to tell you something that might explain everything. I'm listening. She took a deep breath, like someone about to jump off a cliff. The man I was with, he wasn't a stranger. It was Marcus, my ex from when I was young. We reconnected on Facebook months ago. We talked, and then we started seeing each other. And? He has serious drug problems, cocaine, mainly. Her hands trembled. During those days at the hotel, he used a lot. I tried it too. My stomach turned. Jennifer. On the last day, when we went to buy the wine, we were both high, paranoid. Marcus was convinced you knew about our affair, that you were going to tell David everything. And why would he think that? Because I talked about you all the time, about how you hated me, how you tried to split me from David. She sobbed. He became obsessed with the idea that you were our enemy. A chill ran up my spine. Jennifer, what did you two do? Marcus said he had an idea to neutralize you. She averted her gaze. He had pills, heavy sedatives he sometimes used to come down from cocaine. My God! He opened the bottle and crushed 2 pills into it. He said that when you drank it, you'd get dizzy, confused. You wouldn't be able to cause trouble. Just a few hours of grogginess. I held on to the counter. You two poisoned the wine you gave me. It wasn't supposed to be poison, just to calm you. Jennifer stood up, frantic. I never imagined you would give it to my mother. Jennifer, your mother almost died. I know, she screamed. That's why I'm telling you. I didn't know you were going to give it to her. I thought you'd drink it yourself. Nausea rose in me. How many pills? 2. Marcus said it was a harmless dose. For me, maybe, but your mother is older, more fragile. You could have killed her. My voice shook with rage and horror. She fell to her knees, pleading, Margaret, please, don't tell anyone. I'll talk to the doctors myself. I'll say it was an accident. An accident. For the first time, I raised my voice. You planned to drug me. The kitchen was swallowed by a heavy silence. I saw clearly my revenge, meant only to expose a lie, had peeled back something far more sordid, a truth capable of ruining entire lives. I stepped away from Jennifer, still kneeling on the cold floor of my kitchen, and grabbed the phone as if it were my only weapon. The weight of the device felt doubled. I knew a single dialed number would change all our lives forever. What are you going to do? She sprang to her feet, eyes wide, face pale. I'm calling the police. She let out a scream that cut through the air. No, Margaret, please. She rushed forward and clutched my hands in desperation. You can't. This will destroy everything. David, my marriage, my mother's life. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. Your mother almost died because of you two. She started crying, ragged sobs that stole her breath. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake. I'll talk to the doctors myself. I'll explain whatever's necessary so they treat my mother properly. I held the phone to my chest. Jennifer, what you did wasn't a silly blunder. It was attempted homicide. She shook her head frantically. No, it wasn't supposed to be like that. It was just to make you drowsy, calm, like a tranquilizer. Her voice came out hoarse, almost without strength. Margaret, I beg you, give me a chance to fix this. How? I asked, cold, measuring every word. She took a breath, swallowing tears. I'll leave David. I'll get out of your lives forever. The tears came back in a flood. I'll take full responsibility for what happened to my mother. I'll pay every cent of the medical costs, whatever it takes. I crossed my arms, unmoving. And Marcus? She trembled. I'll cut contact, never again. She fell to her knees again, slapping her hands on the floor. Margaret, I made the biggest mistake of my life. But if you call the police, you'll destroy David too. He'll find out he married a woman who tried to poison his own mother. Those words cut through me like a blade. David, my son. I pictured him hearing the full confession. Drugs, betrayal, poison. The weight would be unbearable. I closed my eyes for a moment, breathing deeply. Then I opened them and faced Jennifer. Stand up. I slowly put the phone away. We're going to make a deal. She obeyed, trembling, her hands smeared with tears and runny makeup. What kind of deal? You're going to do exactly what I say, word for word. I kept my voice firm, almost icy. First, you go to the hospital now and tell the doctors the wine may have been contaminated during transport. Give them all the necessary information, but do not mention drugs, Marcus, or intentions. She nodded, shaking. Okay. Second, you tell David you're leaving because you realized you're not ready for marriage. No betrayal, no wine, nothing about me. My voice rang firm through the kitchen. Jennifer opened her mouth, but no sound came out. She swallowed hard. And after that, third, you disappear from our lives. I spoke slowly, word by word. If necessary, you move to another city. You never contact me, David, or anyone in our family again. She was shaking so much she seemed unable to hold herself up. And in return? I leaned slightly forward. In return, I won't call the police. I won't say anything about Marcus or the drugs. I give you the chance to leave without completely ruining my son's life. A thick silence settled between us. Jennifer stared at me as if searching for a crack, a scrap of humanity that might save her. I didn't look away. And if I don't accept, she whispered. I raised the phone again, letting her see my finger hovering over the keypad. Then I call right now. I tell them everything. Attempted poisoning, adultery, drugs, and you answer to justice. She squeezed her eyes shut, sobbing. I accept. You have 24 hours to start. I put the phone away and felt the weight leave my hand, but not my heart. We stayed there in silence. She collapsed into a chair, shoulders shaking with sobs. I turned to the kitchen window. The garden outside looked ironic, flowers open as if nothing had happened. Inside, I felt only exhaustion. In that moment, I understood something terrible and powerful. I held absolute control over the situation that had nearly destroyed my family. It was like holding a fragile crystal glass. A single gesture could shatter lives. And for the first time in months, I realized the final decision was in my hands, not in Jennifer's lies. The next morning, at 10 o'clock, the phone rang. My son's voice sounded broken. Mom, I need to come over. Jennifer told me something devastating. An hour later, he was sitting in my kitchen, his head buried in his hands. He looked like he'd lost his soul. She told me everything, Mom, about Marcus, the 3 days in Princeton. His voice was a thread. 3 years of marriage thrown in the trash. My heart broke. David, I'm so sorry. She said she never really loved me, that she married me for financial security, not for love. He lifted his red eyes. Do you have any idea what it's like to hear that? And about the wine, did she say anything about what happened to Janet? She said there may have been contamination during transport. He ran his hands through his hair. The doctors confirmed my mother-in-law will recover. Severe intoxication, but no lasting effects. I breathed in relief, even as the weight of guilt crushed me. Thank God. Mom, before she left, Jennifer said a strange sentence. He stared at me intensely. Your mother found out the truth about everything. Ask her about the wine that came back home. I felt my blood run cold. And what do you think that means? I don't know. That's why I'm asking you. He leaned forward. Mom, did you know about Jennifer's cheating? I chose my words carefully. David, I suspected something was wrong. Little lies, odd behaviors, little lies. Like the Napa winery story, I found out she bought the wine on clearance at Whole Foods. When someone lies about something so small, they also lie about the big things. He finished, eyes narrowing. Is that why you gave the same wine to Janet? I nodded slowly. I thought that if her mother learned the truth, other masks would fall. David fell into a long, almost painful silence. Mom, did you plan all of this? I planned to expose a lie. I didn't plan to uncover an entire marriage in ruins. I held his hand. But you deserve to know who you were with. He squeezed my hand. And what if I say I'm grateful? Grateful for doing what I didn't have the courage to do. For the first time, he managed a tired smile. Jennifer is leaving town. She said she needs to rebuild her life, far from all this. I felt a bitter mixture, victory and melancholy, together. I had protected my son. But at what cost? A week later, I was watering the garden when I saw Jennifer approach for the last time. She came alone, with a small bag, her body curled in on itself as if she were carrying 10 extra years. Margaret, I came to say goodbye. We stared at each other in silence. She looked defeated. How is your mother? She was discharged yesterday. She's fine physically. She paused. Emotionally, she still doesn't know the whole truth. And she never will, if you keep your promise. I will. She looked at the house where she'd lived for 3 years. Can I ask you something? You can. When you gave me that wine, did you know what would happen? I stopped watering and faced her squarely. And when you gave me the drugged wine, did you? She lowered her head. Touché. The difference is that I never tried to hurt anyone. I know. She took a deep breath. You were always right about me. I was never good enough for David. I never truly loved him. I chose carefully. I knew you two weren't happy. So you did it to save him. I did it because I was tired of the lies. I took a step forward. But if the result was freeing my son from a false marriage, I'm at peace. She nodded slowly. He'll be happy without me. He will. And I'll have to live with what I did. She took out her phone and showed me a photo of David on the wedding day. I destroyed the only good thing I had, didn't I? I looked at the image. You're still young. You can rebuild your life away from here. Away from Marcus. Away from drugs. Away from lies. Exactly. She put the phone away and turned. Margaret? Yes. Thank you. For what? For forcing me to tell the truth. For stopping my fall before I hurt more people. She gave a sad smile. You did for David what my own mother never did for me. I watched her walk down the street, carrying only one bag and leaving behind an entire life of lies. I followed her with my eyes until she disappeared at the corner. For a moment, I felt pity, but I quickly remembered the wine, the betrayal, the lies, and the pity turned into something serene, the certainty that, at last, justice had been done. 2 months later, I was in the kitchen making tea when the phone rang. Steam from the kettle rose in thin spirals, and the smell of chamomile newly placed in the infuser seemed stronger than usual. I answered without thinking much, and Janet's voice came from the other end of the line. I recognized it immediately, but something in it had changed. It sounded steady, controlled, like someone who had walked through a fire and come back transformed. Margaret, can I come by? I need to talk to you. I closed my eyes for a second. That voice no longer belonged to the vain woman I'd met months earlier, but to someone who had looked into the abyss. Come. I'm home. An hour later, she was sitting across from me at the same table where it had all begun. The scene felt like a circle closing. Janet had lost weight, had her hair cut into a practical bob. The face that once looked overly taut now showed natural wrinkles that made her more human. She set her bag on the back of the chair and laid her hands on the table. No rings, no posing. Even the way she breathed seemed different, measured, without ostentation. "I found out a few things about Jennifer," she said, opening a brown folder with an elastic band. The sound of paper on wood landed like a dull blow. My stomach tightened. "What exactly?" I asked, already bracing for the wait to come. "Debts I didn't know about." She pulled out sheets, one after another, lining them up like someone assembling a horror jigsaw puzzle. Maxed out credit cards, personal loans, a car note in arrears. She turned her wrist and handed me statements. March and April, small, constant cash withdrawals, split purchases, exorbitant fees, and this. She pushed a page toward me. Orders on delivery apps at 3 a.m, always the same pattern. I leaned in. I saw the sequence of cold numbers, but each line seemed to throb. My God. And there's worse. Janet unlocked her daughter's old phone. On the device she forgot at my house, I found messages with Marcus. She scrolled. Solve the mother-in-law problem for good. A convincing accident. An inheritance that covers everything. Dates, March 26th and 27. My blood ran cold. Inheritance? They were talking about you, Margaret. The wine was only the beginning, a test. If it didn't work, they would do something bigger. She pressed her lips together, as if saying the phrase betrayed her maternal instinct. I don't recognize my daughter in those messages. I stood and walked to the window. The cold glass against my forehead anchored me in the present. The garden outside was far too calm for what I was hearing. "Are you sure this is real?" "I am." I pulled the backups, checked dates, cross-referenced with bills. "It's consistent. I can send you the files." I shook my head. "I don't need to see more. I believe you." Janet came closer and held my hands. Her nails, once long and polished, were now short and clean. It was a simple gesture, but weighted with shame and redemption. "That wine gift you gave me saved our lives," she said, voice catching. "You exposed Jennifer before it was too late. You saved yourself, David, and me. If I had been next, everything I own would have gone straight to her. And after that, maybe it would have been your turn." My legs went weak. I pulled out a chair and sat carefully. "I never wanted to cross that line," I murmured. "I just wanted the truth to come out." "You weren't vengeful, Margaret. You were protective. There's a vast difference." For the first time, she smiled in a genuine way, without social masks. "And I needed to thank you." We hugged, two different women, bound by the same precipice. The embrace lasted just long enough to catch our breath. When we let go, I realized there was something irreversible in that gesture. The old rivalry had been consumed by a shared fear. "Where is Jennifer now?" I asked. "In rehab, in California, voluntary admission, 30 days inpatient, plus follow-up after. She says she wants to get off drugs and start over, far from everything." Janet took a deep breath, like someone placing hope against reason. "I hope she can." I looked at the open folder on the table. Ordinary papers, yet carrying destinies, dates, numbers, times, addresses, an entire life disordered in printed columns. I closed it slowly, almost like a ritual, and slid it back to her. "I hope so too, Janet. I hope so too." She stood, and before leaving, set her hand on my shoulder. A simple, grown-up gesture that sealed an improbable truce. I walked her to the door. When I closed it and leaned my back against the wood, I took a deep breath. For the first time in months, the house was quiet in the good way, a silence that hides nothing, a silence of peace hard-won. 6 months later, I was preparing Sunday dinner. The oven already filled the house with the aroma of pot roast, slow cooking since 2 o'clock, surrounded by carrots, potatoes, and onions browning in their own juices. The table was set with simple linen napkins, clear glasses, flowers picked from my garden. I also placed a platter of roasted vegetables and a green salad dressed only with olive oil, lemon, and sea salt. The simplicity that had always sustained me. The doorbell cut through the silence. When I opened the door, there was David, and beside him, a woman I had never seen before. Dark-haired, her hair tied back in a practical bun, wearing sober, elegant clothes, and a smile that lit up her entire face effortlessly. "Mom, this is Sarah." She didn't just extend her hand. She hugged me naturally, as if she had known me for years. "Such a pleasure, Margaret. David talks so much about you." "I hope only good things," I joked, feeling the immediate warmth I felt for her. "Always wonderful things." She laughed lightly, "Including about your pot roast. Then today, we'll put that reputation to the test." At the table, I watched the way they looked at each other. No tension, no posing. It was as if each of their gestures fit inside the others. They talked about books. She was reading Ursula K. Le Guin, and movies, mentioning old classics I myself loved. They spoke of small, concrete plans, a photography course, the idea of renovating their apartment balcony, a short trip to Boston to visit museums. Nothing grandiose, nothing performative. Real life. When Sarah said she had brought dessert, she simply said, "I picked it up at the bakery on the corner." No stories of exclusive patisseries, no embellishments, just plain truth. "Sarah teaches elementary school," David said, filling glasses with water. "We met in a bookstore. I was looking for books on organic gardening," she added, laughing at herself. "I want to grow tomatoes, but I'm clumsy with plants." I smiled, feeling an unexpected tenderness. "I can teach you a few things. I have a small herb garden in the back, basil, rosemary, and 2 stubborn cherry tomato plants." "I'd love that, and I promise not to kill the seedlings in the first week." Her laugh rang true, without masks. While she went to the bathroom, David came closer to the sink, speaking softly. "So?" I looked at him. I didn't need to think. "I think she's real, genuine, no masks." He nodded, his eyes soft, and took a deep breath. "I feel the same. Thank you, Mom." "For what?" "For saving me from a life of lies." His voice cracked. I never would have had the courage to see it on my own. I hugged him, feeling the weight finally dissolve. I'd do it all again. After they left, I spent some time on the porch with a cup of Earl Grey tea. The night air was clean and fresh, carrying the smell of damp earth from the surrounding trees. Dorothy appeared from the next garden, pruning shears in hand, the yellow lamplight illuminating her face. "I saw David with the new girl. I liked her," she remarked. "She's down to earth," I confirmed. "Honest, different from the previous one." "Completely different." Dorothy smiled, satisfied. We stood in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the corridor of trees. The cicadas sang in the distance, and the night seemed made for rest. Then I asked, "Do you remember the bottle of wine that started it all? The one from Whole Foods?" "Of course." I kept the empty box in the cupboard, as a reminder. "A reminder of what?" I looked at the dark sky, dotted with stars. "That sometimes small truths reveal great lies, and that protecting the ones we love is worth any price." Dorothy laughed, but without irony. "You've become a strategist, Margaret Sullivan." "No," I replied, with a smile that was mine and mine alone. "I just learned that sometimes maternal love demands extraordinary measures." I went inside, washed the dishes slowly, put away the silverware, let the oven cool. The simple routine felt precious. In the kitchen, the empty box rested in the cupboard, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The truth, even when it hurts, sets us free. And that some happy endings are born only from bitter beginnings. If you recognize that small lies can reveal great truths, Share your experience in the comments. Like, if you believe protecting family sometimes requires extreme courage, follow for more true stories about complex relationships, and share to help others navigate difficult family situations. Truth always wins in the end.